Good evening, good evening, good evening. I hope that we are all finding ourselves doing well on this beautiful spring day. And as Earthos says, there's nothing scarier than seeing a countdown restart. That's just me trying to put my children to bed. So thank you for bearing with us there. But tonight, we are going to be talking about the Pantheons, gods, the power of the gods, and everything that entails. So buckle up, enjoy the ride, hang out, have fun. Everyone on Instagram, feel free to jump over to YouTube or Twitch to enjoy the notes. Joshua, it's good to have you. Let's get started. Ooh, Joshua coming out strong with the comments already. I would have to say that my personal favorite Pantheon for clerics, if we're just going to base it off of clerics, what cleric I would play is an order cleric. Order clerics are hands down my favorite sort of cleric. They're so much fun to play. There's a lot of save or suck problems there, but the fun that can happen with the nonsense that you dig up with an order cleric is it's a blast. Though death clerics can be a good time too. So, but that is exactly the sort of thing that we are going to be talking about tonight. The Pantheons and how you can make your own Pantheon for your homebrew game. I think there's a lot of people that have made a world or started playing a game in their world. And if you do that, I would encourage you to start off with the classic Faerun Pantheon. Because it's easy. It's already built. It's done. It has so many domains covered, and you're set. You don't have to do anything. You just, pick your god, and there it is. No problem. But if you play the way that I do, a lot of my campaigns are very deity heavy. Meaning that the nonsense that the gods are up to has a lot of sway on what the player's plot is going to look like. And so tonight we're going to just talk about a couple of ways that I focus my Pantheon development so that when I'm making a Pantheon for a homebrew, we're good to go. So let's go ahead. I'm going to frame myself on my grid paper there so I know where I need to keep my notes. But as you're planning a Pantheon, there's one thing that we should start with. Planning your Pantheon. And the thing that we should start with is determining whether or not your Pantheon is going to be polytheistic or monotheistic. So the comparison here would be, are you going to have a bunch of gods, or are you going to have one god? Or you could, even, it falls in the parameters there, is it a good versus evil sort of thing, right? Having a determination of domains is going to help with that. Joshua on Instagram says, for homebrews, do you ever have them give gifts or anything? Sort of like the divine gifts from the Odyssey of Theros. For flavor, Lolth is always spicy. Of course, you have to have a spicy god every now and again. Earthos says on Twitch, Pantheons are the hardest, in my opinion, to make it original. Oh, that's so true. But I think I got one or two tricks that will help with that. And I don't know if it'll make them original, but it will at least make them memorable, which in its own way is probably better because that means you've got a higher level of player investment. So, are we monotheistic? Right? Is there one god and one evil sort of thing? A light and dark, the good versus evil? This is the good versus evil vibe. Or are we polytheistic? Which is pretty typical for any fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons, role-playing game scenario, because we want those domains. We want to be able to give the divine magic players flavor. And that matters. That matters for them because that's the entire basis of their character is so much of their morals and ethics and their code and their bonds is going to be sourced from who their deity is. So having a pantheon is huge, and it's even better when it's personalized for the player. And then I would say when you're making your own pantheon, we want 8. We want 8 gods. Start with that. Start with the big 8, and however you want to break those down, that's on you. But what I like to do is have think of everything as 2 sides of the same coin. The light and dark. So a god of light and a god of darkness, right? We can go elemental. We can go with water and fire, nature instead of just earth, right? Those are easy to do. We can kind of combo gods if we need to, if we want more space. Water, fire, earth or nature, air. I like having a god of magic, kind of the god whose purview it is to muck around with magic. Oh, and people are coming and going so fast. Do you homebrew spells or custom gifts based on the homemade pantheons? Yes. The answer is, in short, yes. I am all about giving divine gifts, especially for those clerics. Because like I said, the cleric, the only thing that they have going for them is an incredibly diverse, utility-based spell list, if we're going from the perspective of Dungeons and Dragons. An absolutely incredible spell list. But all of their flavor comes from the relationship to that deity. So not only do we have to kind of think of the domains, what domains we want, I would also say perhaps we should start. So step 1 here. Step 2 should probably be, how involved is your pantheon in your world? If your pantheon is a bunch of meddlers and they are all about doing whatever their stuff is on your world, okay, good. We needed to know that so that we know if we need to give clerics gifts and so on and so forth. Oh yeah, an artificer cleric could be fun, and I've actually seen 1 or 2 of them. So yeah, we need to decide their involvement. Would be involvement. Very good. How involved are they? Instagram, I noticed there's a bunch of us on here. If you want to see the notes that I'm writing, feel free to come over to YouTube or Twitch and check out the notes. Hang out there. There's comments there too, so yeah, come hang out. How do you go about telling your players about homebrew deities or the homebrew world? Ooh, this is good. This is good, Shotgun. And I'm going to hold on to that for a second. Don't let me forget it. So if I forget it, please come back and hey, what about how you introduce gods? I don't speak often. I let the man speak, but listen further. He explains it better than me. I just sip coffee. I'm all my best Uncle Eero imitation. Hey, Uncle Eero is where it's at. So yeah, I would determine your involvement. How involved are your gods going to be in the world? And if you are building a world where you want your gods to be meddlesome, because my gods are freaking meddlesome. Sweet, awesome, that's great. And now we'll know a little bit more about what types of gods we want. And so here in this, the domains, 3, build your domains. And I would say you want 8 domains. And those 8 can be whatever fits your world. Whatever you need to have gold. Excellent. That's good. Good for you. That's perfect. I would start perhaps with, okay, I have a player who wants to play an order cleric. Okay, so maybe we'll have a god of law and light. And that would be a great deity for that player. The light and darkness, water, fire, earth, magic. What other pantheons? Life and death. That's a good combo. And I would say that you can have those be the same as light and dark, but it's always good if you have them be different. So, something to consider. or the divine gifts from the divine Odyssey. Yeah, touch up on gods, taking domains from other gods. Yes, yes. Okay, so giving custom gifts. So this would be, so Joshua, if I'm understanding you correctly, we're talking about, let's say, you encounter your deity, you interact with your deity through whatever prayer or whatever, and your deity, oh, here, my son, a mace of whatever, and here's the blessing that I put upon you or whatever, and you now have the doobly-doo, right? Is that what we're talking about, Joshua? Because heck yeah, do the crap out of that, but only do so in moments that matter. And what I mean by moments that matter is communing with a god is, I guess, depending upon our involvement, right? Depending upon the involvement that you have for your deities, like, are your deities, oh yeah, I saw the god of light over in the marketplace the other day, like, are they that level of involved that they're just kicking around town? Something to consider. It would be a unique way to use gods is, oh yeah, like, yeah, people go to the temple and they worship him like he's there, you know? And if you, I just imagined like showing up to like a motivational speaker, you know, how there's like some motivational speaker and it's just the god up there giving his sermon, you know, at like one of those mega churches, and he picks some random person out of the crowd. And like, what a fun moment if, your deity being some super charismatic deity, like, I need a volunteer for, you know, a blessing. Who would like my blessing? And the crowd's jumping up and down trying to get the attention of this god. And your cleric's at the table and it's like, okay, roll for it. And it's like, oh, I got a plus my 7 or whatever. Oh, and I'll add in like a thaumaturgy cantrip. And so like my booming voice, pick me. And you're able to draw the attention of your god. And he pulls you up onto stage and he gifts you with this aspergillum or something like that, this special +1 aspergillum. And yeah, that could be a super fun little moment. But I guess once again, the whole reason that we have the involvement step is to determine how often or how that should look. I do believe the common term is granting a boon. Yes, definitely granting a boon. And so I think it's Mercer. I don't know. I don't watch Critical Role or anything. But I think his pray for aid rule is you roll the d20, and if you roll below your modifier, so probably would have worked there, that would have been a successful roll. And how far below that roll, so if your charisma or if your wisdom modifier is a 3, then you needed to roll a 3, a 2, or a 1. And how far below that roll is kind of the success of your plea for aid. And so just this last week, I had a player, they were in a TPK situation. Like, it was all 4 were going to die. One of the players had died already. Another's like, I can't do anything. He falls unconscious. Another player falls unconscious. And a player's like, I need to just whip out a prayer. I need to pray for divine intervention. And he rolled a nat 1. So he had an Assassin's Creed loading screen, is how I always describe it. As like you an out-of-body experience, and you meet with your deity on this astral plane, this celestial plane. And what would you have me? What would you have of me, my son? And he's like, hey, can I sacrifice? Can I give up my body so that, you know, we can save my friends, sort of thing. And this is where we get into Earthos' stealing from other domains. Because one of the players had already died, the deity told the player, hey, one of your friends is already beyond my reach. Like, that person, I can't touch them. Like, they're already into someone else's domain. I cannot help you save them because they're no longer savable. They're no longer mine to save. but then he sacrificed himself, and in a strike of lightning just exploded his own body in an attempt to save his friends and saved 2 of the people of the party. So it was a super solid moment. Oh, you guys, we are all over. I'm sorry for everyone who comments and I miss it. I'm trying. With my Trickster Cleric, we donate coins to him and he gives us help not run into one trap. Ooh, okay. I kind of like kind of almost a warlock-ish, or a tithe, an offering, if you will. Super fun moment. I like that. Classic prayer moment. Yes, 100% in blue line. Assassin's Creed loading screen. Yeah, and that's actually how I always describe like the divine scene, because the deities are on another plane, and I have a large pantheon because I've been playing in my world for a long time, and you'll be going along, and this is just kind of the Dungeons and Dragons Pantheon starter pack. You only need your first 8 gods, but then after that, as you develop moments where you're like, oh, I need a god for whatever. This is where Erthos's question, and how do we make that original? I don't know about original, but this is where we help the players care. Because you could just have this big old list of gods that don't really matter to a player. If you were to a player and you're just dropped into a campaign and you're not a cleric, right? You're not a cleric. You're just, whatever, a sorcerer, right? A dragon bloodline sorcerer. You don't give 2 craps about the Faerun Pantheon. You don't care that there's 30 gods on that list and they do X, Y, and Z. It doesn't matter to your character. And because that doesn't matter to your character, your players are not invested in the Pantheon. They just don't care. There's no reason for them to care. But if you have moments where, oh yeah, we're going to encounter a cleric, kind of random encounter moments, we encounter a cleric, I always have my players describe NPCs because I love hearing what they come up with, and building this NPC together is super fun. And that's the first step. So here we are in 4th step of building your Pantheon. So when it's time to fill in the holes, right? You've got your big 8 or whatever, and it's time to fill in your holes. Have your players help you describe. And some things that we need to describe, what they look like, of course. The looks. I like to describe an item or a sigil, something iconic about them. Something iconic, for instance, the perfect inspiration for your homebrew campaign is real world. What have humans worshipped before? And so let's take a look at Odin Allfather. Okay, here you are on Allfather Games channel. Let's talk about Odin. Odin, some lore behind Odin. Oh yeah, he's missing an eye. Well, that's great. He's missing an eye. Cool. But then the lore can dig a little deeper. And okay, well, why is he missing an eye? Well, he gave that up for additional wisdom. Like, he gave that up for additional magics. And so there's instant lore there. Like, ooh, okay, that implies a whole nother echelon of magics and stuff like that. An item or a vigil, a sigil, that's the word I was looking for. An item or a sigil, he's commonly associated with his ravens, right? Hunin and Munin. He has his wolves. His spear is his weapon of choice. Like, we have all of these things that are associated with the god then, and that helps flesh out the god. So have your players help you with that description. Another thing to consider, worship. How is the god worshipped? I really liked the trickster god, where you pay a coin for a favor, sort of thing. You can give tithes and offerings. So if you have like a god of war here, how are they worshipped? Oh, through whatever, through battle. I worshipped my god through battle. Great, warcaster. That's awesome. Great war cleric stuff. Perfect. That's all you need. And you can use this with your players, helping you describe these aspects of this god. Spencer, because my god saved us from that trap that would have screwed us, half the party chose to worship him, and they donate coins to me regularly. That's awesome. And see, that's fun. That is a fun moment now that your players have experienced a god that they needed, right? I have those two players that had that experience with the god of storms probably have a bit more consideration for the god of storms now, because they got their butts saved by a paladin that worshipped this god of storms. And it's just a great moment that makes that pantheon now more meaningful to your players. Otherwise, it's just a list. It's just a list that's going to sit in some hard drive or in some folder somewhere, collecting dust because it doesn't matter to your players. What matters to your players are... Oh, I wish that Sadie Lady was on here, because she ran a campaign once that I was a part of. And we came up with, I think it was Gary. I think it was just Gary, the god of birds. Like, where did this happen? The druid said a prayer or something. We had this random encounter with Gary, the god of birds. And okay, describe Gary, the god of birds. He's a scoutmaster. What, like an outdoorsy person? No, like a straight up Boy Scouts of America scoutmaster that got like pulled into this world. Like he went off hiking one day with the Boy Scouts, got lost in the woods, and now he's like some other planar being who's just like a bird watcher guy. And that was super fun. It was fun and silly and typical Dungeons and Dragons. And it was a great time. And we were super invested in that god. And he gifted us with like a flute that summoned a bird. It was like a horse-sized chicken or something like that. And we would just summon this horse-sized chicken periodically for nonsense. It was goofy. It was fun. And it was a fun little tidbit that we got to ride on. An inside joke that we got to ride on for the rest of the campaign, because the players helped to develop that god. I'm going to go level up 1 in Paladin because of his sacrifice. Yeah, and see, that's super cool. That's super cool when your players do something and it affects the table. That's when character development happens, right? And this is just... It's just the sprinkles. It's the sprinkles on top. It's just the salt and pepper that makes it feel good. It makes it taste good as you're rolling the world around in your mouth, and you're just, yeah, how does it feel? It feels good because this is here. Is it going to serve a primary purpose in your campaign 100% of the time? No, it's not. But it definitely helps your world feel full. When a player says, ooh, we're hunting this death cleric, whatever, right? Well, let's go to the temple, the nearby temple of the death cleric. And we can come up with churches. Churches are incredible plot devices. I absolutely love using churches as plot devices because they represent everything that should be good. They represent what should be good in the world. Taking care of others, serving their community, upholding their domain. And it's just, the flavor is golden when you dig a little deeper into this orphanage that this church is running and realizing that they are, oh yeah, little Timmy just needed some healing, and so we sent him to whatever place, and you never saw little Timmy again. And then the orphans start asking questions, and you dig a little deeper, and you realize that there's this sub-cult who's secretly worshiping a warlock in the depths of this temple that are sacrificing orphans that should be in the domain of this, what a kind and loving welcome to the temple of life and love. And they're siphoning off orphans for whatever dubious purposes. Right? But that's just the flavor. The flavor on the world is when people should be doing one thing and they're doing something else. That's the chaotic evil in there, right? The evil doing whatever serves their purpose. Bob, when children are left to play their own devices, the building blocks of a dream's foundations are laid. Yes, use kids. Kids, everyone loves kids. Even if you like to give them back at the end of the day, right? You still enjoy the things that kids do. We all giggle when there's a funny Instagram reel pops up and it's some baby with just this glorious chuckle. We love it. Everybody identifies with enjoying that. And when you manipulate your players' emotions with that stuff, you're building the building blocks of dreams. You're about to have a fun campaign because your players care, and not just your characters care, your players care. And that's a big difference there. Because we can say, oh yeah, this is our bonds, traits, ideals, and flaws. My character cares about this. But when you're personally invested in, hey man, like, I've got a beef with stealing orphans, right? You're going to fall into a much more organic feel. It's going to be more enjoyable for your players because of that investment. Things I know, it can be fun to have an actual use for the features in the acolyte background too. Shelter of the faithful, always getting slept on. I love it when players use that. Oh yeah, I belong to this order. When a paladin belongs to an order, oh, that's glorious. Use it. Because churches are major resource centers. They all have their own library. They all have their own healers. They all have their own whatever. Use that. Let your players know that they can use that. This is why I love downtime. And maybe I'll talk about downtime next week. Because temples and churches and the people associated with them make for great opportunities for our players to use that downtime, especially if you have your acolyte background. If you are a cleric and you've got that acolyte background, you can go to, oh yeah, I'd like to find the nearby air temple and go and commune with the priests there. Oh, and you go and you commune with the priests there, and they've got a little tidbit of knowledge. What is a tidbit of knowledge to us? The most important thing of all, the hook. The hook that's going to pull our players further down the path. And we can use all of this to generate those hooks. Earthos. Yes, please. Please talk about downtime. One of my groups hates it, and I want them to love it. Downtime is so much fun, and it makes me sad to hear that, Earthos, because, yeah, so definitely we'll talk about downtime next week. And it's important. It's absolutely crucial. Downtime can do so much for your character development, and it's an easy way to hand boons, we talked about boons, to your non-cleric players. Because, oh yeah, your cleric... to use fair, I return to the Temple of Tempest and I train in battle with the war priests there. Excellent. You'll have advantage in your next combat. Okay, sure, whatever. Filled with the vigor and vim of communing through combat, you'll have advantage for whatever reason. That's great. Everyone else at the table is like, oh, well, I want that. All because the cleric took a little downtime at the nearby temple. There's other things that we can have our players do to give them fun little tidbits and award them for downtime and let them grow and develop their character in other ways other than just, yeah, I want to hack and slash and crush goblin skulls, which there's nothing wrong with. If that's your player, that's your player. But we can provide them a boon with downtime so that they're better at it. And then they're like, ooh, maybe this downtime stuff's not too bad. Because now I have whatever gift you gave them, their +1 aspergillum, because they went to the mega church and got called up on stage. Like, whatever, sure, that's great. But now they're better at combat because of that little tidbit of downtime. Super fun. Super fun. Yuvatam. Any advice for the charlatan background? We will talk about that as a great one for downtime. So let's take some notes for downtime. And I'm going to write that in associated with backgrounds. And this will be for next week's workshop. UVA Tom, I can't decide whether I want my gods to be real or not, or if the prayers or the cleric spells are simply powered by belief. Ooh, so that comes into the involvement, like how real are our gods, and that. Once again, that's just the flavor of your setting. It's really going to come down to what you are wanting from the situation. And if you want your players to be able to actually commune with a god and have a conversation with a god, that's awesome, and it can provide some really fun opportunities. Or if it's just, my magic is powered by belief, the hopes and prayers, right? And that's it. My magic is fueled by hopes and prayers. That's cool too. And that's fun. That could be actually really fun, a fun role play and fun character development as you have an opportunity as your player spell fails. They roll a nat 1 on a spell and the belief wavers a little bit and the magic wavers a little bit. And that could be super fun. Just provide, look, this is all role play fuel. That's all that this is. Roleplay fuel that can give us hooks for our main plot. That's the importance of Pantheons. That's all it's going to do for us. Spencer, I'm excited for that. We just had downtime season and it didn't go great. Man, I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully, next week when we talk about downtime, we'll be able to correct that. So, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and hit the outro. Feel free to stick around, hang out, all the good things. But I hope that this helps in developing your Pantheon. Hang around for the after party, and we will continue to talk about Pantheons. As always, have fun and take care of your players. All right. Now that we put Instagram to bed, we can get into the real stuff. Yeah, so this is all going to just boil down into the roleplay. What is this actually going to do for us? It's just going to provide us roleplay opportunities, and those hooks that help us move the plot along. Because I absolutely love churches for bad guys and villains. I just finished like a 2-year campaign. The primary bad people were deities. They were the ones driving all of the problems, was deities. And so it was just the players like being given quests by deities in order to fight other deities, in order to accidentally unleash even worse deities. Like it's I love messing around with deities, and I have a passion for this. So things I know. After party. Commenting immediately because YouTube is slow. And so that's why I've stuck around for a minute. So please let me know if you do have any questions. Lay them on me. Now is the time. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? I will give it a moment. I'll continue to monologue. You got me monologuing. That way you guys have the opportunity to mention anything that you need to mention. But if not, we can just wrap it up. It's okay. We've been on for 30 minutes. That's a healthy episode. The rocks were just puppets all along. Yeah, kind of, actually. The Rocks was the name of the party, and they really did just kind of get tugged along, and it was rough. It was rough there at the end. People died. Churches can also be a great source of backstabbing from people you should trust. Yes, this is more of that great opportunity, right? Because the church is supposed to represent everything that is good, the embodiment of my domain. I am a cleric of life and light, and so should you all be. Right? It's if anyone has seen the D&D movie, it's that the Zen Colgarin, the paladin, and you should trust in the Harpers, and I don't traffic in colloquialisms and so on and so forth. And that how much sweeter is the moment, right? Because Edgin, he felt betrayed by the Harpers because whatever reason they didn't put out for him, and so he felt betrayed by them. Whether or not the Harpers actually did anything to betray him specifically, no, not really. But all the sweeter if the Harpers had specifically someone from the Harpers, or the Harpers used them. We should never trust the Harpers. Used them, and so therefore betrayed him. And so what a great moment to... Oh, I just got a vision for like a fun framing the cleric for something, right? You're chasing something down. Your mentor, this is very Forge from the movie. Your mentor tells you, oh, so on and so forth. An evil sacrifice is happening below the temple. Go and aid us, my young paladin, and my feeble body, and excuses. And then when they arrive, the sacrifice already done. And as your paladin arrives and this thing is happening, there's gore and like dead bodies and stuff. And then the city watch shows up, and your mentor arrives on the scene. Yes, he did it. I heard him speaking horrible things. And your mentor frames you for this sacrifice. What a fun initiation into a great campaign. That would be super fun. Behind the screen stuff that world builders create for themselves. Oh, I gotta switch. I'm losing. I'm gonna come over to Twitch real quick. So the characters wouldn't know that the gods aren't real. I guess it's that behind the screen stuff that world builders create for themselves that never makes it to the players. Yeah, and that's cool too. But you will trust in the moment. Your players will find a moment that they insist on, like, I'm a pray. It's prayer time. The moment will happen. If you have a cleric at the table or a paladin at the table, they will want to, I go to the nearest shrine, temple, altar, church, whatever, holy place, and I want to commune with my God in an attempt to find knowledge or whatever. The reason could be whatever, it doesn't matter. But you'll have a player will try to do that. And so having determined, is this actually, what's going to happen, that's going to matter. So I would determine ahead of time whether or not the gods are real. And you have to know, okay, like, oh, so he rolls a nat 20 or whatever, and rolls this nat 20 to commune with his god, but the gods aren't real. We probably shouldn't have had him roll in the first place. We could just cinematic that and say, yeah, as you pray, you receive no answer. And that's it. Because the gods aren't real. It's been you all along, bud. It's been your hopes and prayers. I did that in a one-shot and almost tricked the players into thinking the cleric did it. Ooh, have the entire party be like, wait, what? You did what? That would actually be a lot of fun. I'm a prey on this. All your players, all the time. If you've got a cleric. And then, so that is another consideration. I would recommend, if you are going to mess around with, I would like some divine intervention, give your clerics the channeled divinity option to commune. I would like to commune. I will use one of my channeled divinity points, and I'm going to commune with my deity. And that allows them to roll for it, and great success, right? So that really matters. Something to consider there. make sure there's a resource that they have to expend. Otherwise, every opportunity they're just going to treat it like the augury spell, and I'm a prey on this. Like, and they could treat augury like that. Like, oh yeah, it's a prayer. Oh, and you receive a hinting from your deity that, whoa. The end, right? So, something to consider. Putting the coins in a designated pouch. That's great. I like that. Very cool, you guys. All right, everybody. I think it's time to wrap it up. Let's go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for participating, hanging out with me. I appreciate all of the participation tonight. It was huge. Really great showing today, which makes things a lot more fun. So next week, tune in next week as we talk about downtime and specifically how our backgrounds and that downtime can lead into our hooks. So